Go.
Yeah, I just got to say before I introduce my fabulous next guest, which is a very interesting little twist in our show. Very upset with the airlines. I just can't bear the way we're treated on the plane. It's really sad. It's changed completely from the old days. But, before there would be a lot more touching, pressing, prodding, which makes me feel more comfortable, especially when I'm away from home. When they go past you in the aisle, everybody hits your arm or hits your shoulder. But now because of the bloody COVID, people are actually taking care not to. So I felt completely out of it. I just felt alienated completely, and I miss it. I miss the old days when it was like a bazaar on the plane, and everybody would just make no effort to not touch. But now everybody trying to keep their distance, spoiling the game for me. How can this be Indian in any way? How can we Indians who live in a box together, how can we live like this? When will this end? When will we touch again in peace? Don't be a touch me not. And Valentine's Day is coming soon, which is very exciting for most of us who don't have girlfriends. I do have a wife though, so I perhaps shouldn't be thinking of it. But for those of you out there looking for romance, you've got 3 days to catch the big fish. In the meantime, it's called Cyrus Says, and let's call on our author. What a huge honor this is. His name is Zarrar Said. And Zarrar, before I get you on, I have to just quickly say the honor is ours completely because you're banned. You're the first banned product on our show. This is huge. My producer will play the relevant music. At the moment, we have one tabla. That's it. So he'll just sort of bang it on his head for 5 minutes. But Zarrar, that's fantastic. I mean, I don't know. My parents are going to be proud today because the only thing
No,
banned in my house is chocolate. And now we've got you. So let me start at the beginning. A lot of respect. Thank you for coming here. The book is called Pureland. You're an author. You're a writer. You're also a man who's traveled the world from Lahore to Dubai to New York, and presently we'll figure out where you are exactly and what is home. But before we start in the beginning, let's talk about Pureland. So Pureland it's a fictitious book in actuality.
yes.
This is Zarar's first words on our show. Sorry.
It's a work of fiction that's based on an actual story of a man called Abdul Salam who won the Nobel Prize in physics, but then was banished from his country and
I've
kind of
seen the Netflix.
excommunicated.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, the
So it was
fabulous show.
excommunicated. And the irony is that I wrote a story about a guy who gets banned and banished, and hence that's what happened to the story itself, to the book itself, everywhere.
Why
But
was it banned? It doesn't sound like
yeah,
an
it's
affront, really.
actually it's not, it wasn't officially on any banning list or
No, you
any
can't do this to
embargo
me,
per
Zarrar.
se.
It has to be banned. It must be banned.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, if you guys can find, I just asked Antariksh if you could find it on Amazon. You can buy it like secretly through channels and stuff, but in Pakistan you can't find it anywhere. The embargo is there on it. In India, the retailers, my publishers told me, are going to send the consignment back to HarperCollins. They refuse to carry it.
Whoa!
Um,
Why?
I mean, even if I
Okay,
make this up, this is something I can't even make up. So I guess the story behind the embargo is that when the book came out, it initially came out in India. The raging reviews from various newspapers, the Hindu, the Indian Express, and everything else. And then my publishers called me and they said, "Listen, this Pulwama thing happened in February 2019." I was like,
oh,
"Pulwama, what?" I don't even know what that means. And they're like, "Yeah, this happened. So now any artist, writer,
okay.
singer, uh, you know, uh,
Anti-Pakistan sentiment. So it was nothing to do with the book. It was just
nothing
a
to do with. I mean, yeah. So in that happened there, and in Pakistan, none of the media outlets were carrying the story because they were too afraid that it's a very taboo subject to be supportive of an outlier sect in Islam where people have been
about the
ostracized
Ahmadis.
and
That twist to it.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got
yeah,
it, got it,
yeah,
got it,
yeah.
got it, got it.
So it's nothing to do with
What?
anything that the nobody
So
really
actually,
actually
it
read
really
the
has
book.
nothing to do with the
Yeah,
book. The underlying thing that because he's
I
part of the Ahmadi sect and that okay, so I get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And in
yeah.
India, it was just
I'm
jingoism.
sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but
Bro,
yeah.
I was wondering with the mighty Imran Khan, one of my heroes growing up, was like, "Give me the phone. Who is this Zarar boy?" Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
who
No,
is this Zarar boy? Give me the phone. Let me get his baritone
you,
right here. Yeah, you want to
who
go?
banned this guy?
Who banned this guy?
So
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Pakistan
So
team is
that's
really good, if you give them a chance.
yeah.
Oh man, now there's no
I
chance.
want
My
them.
visa's
I want them
yeah,
to fight like corner tigers. So
tigers.
basically, that's what happened to me. And
Yeah.
and there's a funny thing. It's actually a satire, because I like to think that I'm a satirist in a very comic way and also a literary way. And within the book, there's many characters, Imran Khan being one of them. And his sister actually read the book and knew about it, and they're family friends of ours, and I don't know how to get the book into Pakistan. It's almost impossible. There's no way I can get it in there, because all the books are published in India. There's an embargo on Indian books, and already my book is a taboo. That none of the retailers are willing to, put it on their shelves. In India, none of the retailers are putting on their shelves for other reasons. So I'm stuck in
What other reasons?
this kind of, because I was born in Pakistan, so I think that's the only reason.
God, this is like real. What is this? From some form of racism? I know it's ridiculous. But so let me get this straight.
It's so funny.
You're connected
So
to the prime minister of Pakistan's family, and you still can't get it pushed into Pakistan.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't really. Actually, Pakistan and India is not a really big market for me. It doesn't really matter,
Nobody reads.
To be honest,
Nobody reads. Yeah.
nobody freaking reads. And even the people that can read don't read. So it's not a big deal for me. It's more of a personal matter, in that I really want people of my city and my country to have at least the ability to access the book. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the case. So I think, that being said, it became this thing where the book became more known for the fact that it was connected to Abdul Salam and the Ahmadi thing, rather than it being a fiction novel. And most of the media outlets and most of the coverage had to do with that. Like, nobody actually talked about the book with me. Nobody actually talked about the story, and that's what was really frustrating for me.
It's a bit like the whole Salman Rushdie ban, in a sense, satanic verses without reading it sort of thing. Oh, in India, we've had plenty of those. You take any sacred cow figure from the past, write a book about, and you may mention some humane factor, like the man, may have copulated or something like that, and boom, the author is destroyed and ink on his face. And this interview is not that hard that you have to drink throughout it. Don't worry, or take medication. Fear not. We're on your side.
Oh, no, I'm just having some ginger ale.
Is that what it's called in New York? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're giggling at like a couple of schoolgirls, man.
Yeah.
So getting back now, let's look at the India question. So what you're saying is that you need, for our side of the border, you need Indian publishers. Why can't you get publishers from another country, a neutral country like, say, Nepal or something? Is that not a possibility? Some other country?
So India controls India. So India is the biggest market in the publishing world. There's more people that have more books are published in India than anywhere else in the world.
How?
More people. It's really tough for me to answer that question. I don't understand. And so every surrounding country gets all their books from India. So even in Pakistan, all the books come from India. So that's one of the reasons why, even if I wanted to, I couldn't get my book through. All the publishers are Indian based. And so I guess that was HarperCollins's dilemma as well. Like, they couldn't get the shipments to Pakistan. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
So what you're saying is drugs go up and down the border without a problem, but we can't send a book, not one book.
No,
it's amazing. What a story.
No.
Let me just jot this down. Foreign Office should hear from us quickly. We'll try and sort this out.
Yeah.
I'll use my influence. You use your
Sort
influence.
it out.
Sort Imran. It out, man. I don't know who I know. I'll figure it out. I may know Virat. we don't know where he stands in the scheme of things. Yeah. Let's get back then to the beginning of your entire story. It's a very interesting one. So you were born in Lahore?
Yeah, I'm born in Lahore. I grew up in Dubai and the US mostly, and I went back to Lahore when in my early 20s, and I lived there for a little while, and then moved back to New York City. So that's where I've been here. I've been in New York for 11 years now.
Mm-hmm. And how do you become an author? Give us a little background. Where did that all come from?
I've always written. I've always done a lot of science articles and things like that. And one time, this publication called Paper Magazine that I used to work, freelance for, they asked me to do. Are you there? Oh, man. Oh, there you are.
Hey, Zarrar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm God. I'm. Yeah. So yeah, I used to freelance for this magazine called Paper Magazine, and they asked me to do an article about Abdul Salam and the scientist and the story. I started writing the story, and I became mesmerized by this like just the unrealness of it. It was just a fascinating human story about this boy who's born in a Punjabi village. He's 3 years old. He can't speak. He goes on to change the world of physics, and then when he's older, he wants to come back to his country, but his country turns his back on him. Not only that, they eradicate him and his community from the constitution. They're the only people that I know of in the last 50 to 60 years that have been constitutionally, legally eradicated from the country and excommunicated. So when you are an 18-year-old in Pakistan, when you get your ID card, you have to sign an affidavit stating that you agree to the fact that Ahmadis are non-Muslim. And if you don't do that, you don't get your ID card. So I think that's how deep the hatred has gotten to, how deep the sort of animosity towards a group of people has gotten to that point. And anyone who sides with them or tends to raise their voice for them not only gets silenced by them, the Ahmadis themselves, but everyone around them. So I found myself in a very awkward situation, having done this thing, even as a work of fiction. The minute people hear about the association with Abdul Salam and Ahmadis, and it automatically becomes an issue for me.
But you knew that. Jumping in, you knew that.
I didn't know that it would be this bad. I mean, I didn't think that people would be that stupid, or like it's a work of fiction. I didn't think that I was writing a satire of the entire situation. The Pureland idea, the idea of purity itself, and the idea of this country falling apart due to extremism was a parody. And now, and when it got published and all around the world, I mean, I saw countries following my story, and it was really weird for me. And I think that is the most fascinating part, that the satire and the parody became the reality, and me and my story suffered.
So Zarrar's art became life in a sense, which was not really your intention. This was a background. The background was all this. The story was a human story about a guy in a village who, in a foreign language and a foreign culture, excelled in science.
Yeah.
And changed the world.
It's a love story. You see, it's a love story about a boy about a man who in exile, and I believe we were talking earlier. You talked to Atish earlier. Exile can be a very painful thing. It's not that someone chooses to be in exile, and no one wants to be separated from their home. And so I turned it into a love story, the story of a man who loves a country that doesn't love him back, and that's the most tragic thing you can ever think of. And in that sense, I turned it into a love story with, obviously there's a girl involved, and to add to it, but the underlying theme is exile and excommunication, and how painful that can be. But I didn't think that it would happen to friends of mine and people, and and it would happen in the US for all purposes.
Yeah, I think we can't finger point anymore. It's easy for us to say, "Oh, Pakistan, yeah, we expect this from them," and all that. But it starts at home. I dare say where we come from. Secularism all over the world, it seems, just taking a beating, or is it always been like this, and we're just getting to know that? There's so much unbelievable. Yeah, go on,
Cyrus. I think people that don't understand history, people that do understand history know that it repeats itself over and over again. Okay? So I mean, the entire story of Iran, look at what a wonderful culture that was, what a wonderful civilization. It vanished overnight. And the same is with Syria, with Afghanistan, with Greece, with Rome, with current day United States, with India. When growing up in the 90s, and we used to look up to India and be like, oh my God, you guys, you can say anything on the media. You have MTV Bakra, you have Cyrus B, you have Big Cyrus B saying whatever the hell he wants. How can he do that? And now we're like, what the hell just happened? Aap to bilkul hum jaise nikle. This kind of stuff, like, it repeats itself. and this wave of extremism and sort of the idea of
Silencing people and all, we've really taken it too far. I mean, just hatred is so easy. It's amazing. As you
it's
said,
a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. So when you silence one person, or what does that mean? That means that one voice cannot, it's a slippery slope. Once you silence one person, it goes downhill into a very big snowball, and it ends up wiping out entire civilizations, like I just gave you examples of. So that
yeah.
was the parody that I wrote about. It was sort of supposed to be like a satire.
Yeah, although if I could cut you for a second, they could silence a couple of the singers around the world. I mean, Vanilla Ice comes to mind immediately. I mean, there's been some horrible music that's been produced by people that could have been
Yeah,
silenced at the right time. But this is
yeah,
really painful that a man of genius is he's not even tolerated. Forget put on a
yeah,
pedestal and worshipped and treated like a
yeah.
demigod in his own culture and motherland, so to speak. But and he's not the only one. I'm sure if you research more, there'll be a few more like
Oh
this.
yeah,
Which just
this is this is just a sort of a situation
tip of the
of
iceberg.
circumstance that we were physics students that managed to come across the story. We had to leave the country of our birth to know about this guy, and that was very fascinating to me. That how many other Salams are there in this world? How many other stories are there like this? Like, look at the. Can I give you an example
Please
of
do.
how so? Salam was born in Pakistan, and or sort of he was born in India. He leaves India, gets on this scholarship. It was the last scholarship that they offer. It's called the Indian Peasants Fund or something like that. He gets like this crazy fund. He goes to Cambridge, studies physics, and becomes a legend. Nobody understands him there. He comes back to Pakistan. Nobody understands him there. He's like losing his mind. He's like in an intellectual island. So he's like, screw this shit. I'm going back. I'm going to start writing papers. He writes this paper. Everyone laughs him out of town. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. So he goes through all this kind of, excommunication all throughout his life. His country, when he wins the Nobel, finally, his country not only ignores it, they systematically eradicate him from the community, from the system itself. So when you open up a physics book in Pakistan, his name's not there, although he was the Michael Jordan of physics. Let's give another example. So what he could have done for the country is the example I'm giving you right now. There's another man who did exactly the same thing, but for mathematics, the South Indian called Ramanujan.
Ramanujan. Yeah.
He inspired an entire generation of people to follow physics, mathematics, and science. And now, all these guys in Google, Oracle, and all sorts of places that around the world, these South
Yeah.
Indians are like killing it, man. And it's because this guy started a generation of people loving math and science and wanting to be like him. So my example is like, imagine if that guy was
What it would have
let
done
him
to
be.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Like Imran Khan brought in the fast bowling revolution.
Exactly, right? That was one Imran Khan, and then there was 17 other fast bowlers. So that's just an example of what hatred does. Civilizations suffer from the prejudices that they keep.
Yeah, but I
If
think this is,
I'm
sorry,
if
go
I'm
on, go on, go
prejudiced
on.
about someone, it's going to end up hurting me. And this is an example of how that prejudice hurt that person and that country.
No, it's just ridiculous that he's a Nobel Prize winner. He's changed the
Yeah,
shape of science. And
yeah,
in scientific circles around the world, where
yeah,
scientists of different cultures and races and religions sit together, he's a god. And yet he goes
yeah,
back home and he's a non-entity. Forget not being
yeah.
given respect. He's a non-entity, as you say, which is just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
not only that, his grave is chiseled. They chiseled the word Muslim off his grave.
Oh,
People throw trash on it. They throw human feces in that
oh my God, really?
area,
Are you
and then yeah,
serious?
yeah. There's an Ahmadi sort of cemetery, and it's
Yeah,
surrounded by mosques that
yeah.
constantly chant hate slogans against Ahmadis. So there's a systematic hatred that was put in place back in the 70s, and it hasn't left.
God, man, why can't they take all this hatred and just bowl fast? It's a waste of time, really. All this energy, it's just ridiculous, honestly. Such a sad
Yeah,
story. It's amazing
yeah,
that
it's a sad
you.
story, and I think the idea was to not isolate it into one place and make it a kind of in the story, in the book itself, I'll quote from it. The narrator says, Pureland can be anywhere. And how's it working out for you? Like, he's talking to someone who lives here in the US, and how's it working out for you? Because the same things are happening all over.
Yeah, xenophobia, so to speak. But here's the interesting thing. Do the non-subcontinental readers, firstly, that's not fair because there are enough people in India and Pakistan who are liberal and right-minded, not right-minded, but, will be happy to read this. So I shouldn't say that because I think we keep painting countries with a full brush like that, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I've met so many Pakistani guys like yourself. I've stayed with them. I've hung out with them. I have not one bad incident to relate. So personally speaking, it's very difficult for me to understand that there's so much animosity. Of course, in certain areas, there's clearly radicalization, and people are clearly got one strategy and one way of looking at things. But having said that, what about the foreign readership? Do they take to the story better? Are they
Oh
amazed
yeah.
at the story?
Yes, because in the end of the day, it's a very common human story of love and regret and nostalgia and banishment. And actually, a few months ago, someone from Memphis, the Memphis Star or something like that, was like interviewing me, and he's like, "Oh my God, the stories, the way you write is the way we talk in the Delta." And I don't know what the Delta was. Apparently, the Delta is that area in Memphis, Tennessee, and Kentucky, in that area. And these kind of stories really resonate over there. And I didn't know that because it just is. I wanted to make it very universal, and I have a lot of. So I also have the book published in the US and the UK, and there's a lot of readership that um, is based in cities and in the US that you would never imagine would take to this kind of story because they find something relatable.
Yeah, again, it's almost like a piece of satire, a story about a guy from the subcontinent and a subcontinental malaise behind that is actually going to be appreciated and identified by non-subcontinental types at
Yeah.
the end of the day. So that's another beautiful irony, I think. Great. But wow, I think, and so at the moment, the status is banned in Pakistan and not published in India. Am I right? Is that right
There's
to say?
no, you can't get it in Pakistan. If you try in India in the retail stores, you won't be able to get it. But if you buy it straight from the publisher, a HarperCollins India, you would be able to buy it, and Amazon India, they ship it to you. But yeah, that's the state of affairs, I guess.
So, what's your next book going to be now? Obviously, they've poked the bear in Zarrar, and Zarrar is going to poke back. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm doing a very conventional YA novel based in New York City. I'm gonna try and stay safe. You know what I mean? I got kids to raise. I can't deal with this shit anymore. I can't keep doing this kind of stuff. It was too painful, man. The last few years have been really, really painful trying to get the right publishers who would take on the story, the right agents and the right media outlets. And nobody likes the idea of people. Fear makes people do weird things. You know what I mean? And I've realized that firsthand.
well, good news and bad news. Mozart died in a pauper's grave. Music lived on forever. So, maybe it's just a question of time
Yeah.
when it'll be appreciated in a better world where people are more understanding and empathetic and can actually comprehend the nature of a great human being who lived in amongst them and should have been
Yeah,
celebrated.
and can take a joke.
And come on, just take a joke. We haven't come that far. Give us another 100 years, we'll get jokes. Jokes are banned,
Yeah.
right after China, apparently. I think we're going to New Zealand to crack a joke now. It's that bad. Okay, let's talk a little bit about cricket before we bring Silvery in, since we have this passion that we share. Although I
Yeah.
remember meeting Shoaib Akhtar and in Dubai and interviewing him, and he insisted that I have to come to Rawalpindi or Lahore to try the kebabs because and there's a huge rivalry about our kebabs are better. Whatever
Yeah.
happens, you got to come once. In fact, he actually
Yeah.
said, "Yaar, chaddi pehn ke aana, baage mere sabab se." I said, "Okay, fine." So he literally said that.
Yeah. Have you been
Sure,
to Have you been to Lahore or no?
how, bro? This is not a
Oh,
time when we can go anywhere easily. We were about to go. MTV Pakistan was going to open in
yeah.
2001, And Junoon and all were involved. I remember we were going to the United Nations, and then we were going to go to MTV Pakistan and open it or whatever. And then it got canned at the last minute, or we weren't allowed to go. Sophie Chaudhary and me, we were quite excited because they had come, 3-4 guys had come from Pakistan to study stuff in MTV India and all that. So we were going to go like mentors. I was like, wow, man.
They did eventually open up, I guess. Didn't they?
They did,
Didn't
yeah.
they
But then
up?
they kept it low key and all because there's all this pressure from extremists or extremism or anti-America. Who MTV gets labeled as, if MTV represents America, America's really in trouble. Frankly. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk cricket for a second. Isn't it great to have? By the way, you said you were a pretty good fast bowler yourself.
I was a blistering fast bowler. No, I'm kidding. I was pretty decent. I played club cricket back home, and then I played in the US. I've been playing until the last few years.
Zarrar. You're a Pakistani guy in the US playing cricket. It's a little different. Huh? I've seen those. Our subcontinental teams are made up, these really rich guys with big stomachs who can hit a couple of balls, and that's about it. Yeah. So were you really good? So, honestly,
I'm not. Yeah, no, I was okay, man. I mean, I wasn't great. I played in high school. I was the captain of my team. I played in the club, the local clubs, and then in those days, I guess like the idea wasn't to become a cricketer. It wasn't like very lucrative. It wasn't like today where you spend 5 or 10 years in the system and you can build a career out of it in one way or another. In those days, there was nothing there. Like either you were absolutely amazing or you were shit, and that's basically what my category was.
How fast was the young Zarrar? Would you touch 140, 145?
Man, so here's the thing. In those days, so this is 97, 98, 99. In 97, when South Africa came to Pakistan, I was bowling in the nets to Andrew Hudson and Sean Pollock. And
are you kidding me?
Yeah, so in those days, I was the shittiest. They were playing a practice match in my club, the Gymkhana club, right?
Right.
So those days, I was the crappiest bowler out of in that category. I was the crappiest, and you can imagine, like I was okay, man. I was like bowling at 130 clicks at 17, 18-year-old, and those days there were bowlers that were like 95, 90, 95. Like Shoaib Akhtar, if you ask him this question, he'll tell you he was the slowest out of the 5 that bowled 95 plus, which was true because Mohammad Zahid was the fastest.
And he was injured after that, right?
Yeah, he got injured. He broke his back, like trying to.
He was faster than Shoaib.
Even Shoaib says this to this day that Zahid was the fastest he's ever faced. Brian Lara said he's the fastest he's ever faced, and those guys were so quick, like you couldn't see the ball. Like that's how quick they were, and we were so spoiled that even at the level of club to like senior club level, first class level, every club had a bowler that could like chuck down a 90 mile an hour ball.
So beyond Shoaib and Mohammad Zahid, was it a third and fourth guy who was as close to 100?
No, there was like 5 or 6. There was like 5 or 6. Mohammad Zahid was the fastest. I mean, Zahid played a test. He played one test. He got 11 wickets.
Zahid played a bit. I remember watching him. He's thin, lanky, tallish.
Yeah.
Pure talent.
You see, Cyrus, the thing is, in Pakistan, there was no infrastructure to support the cricketer, right? And now you see there's like, there's a person who does your physio, there's a person who does your diet, there's a person who does your, muscle. Ek aapke liye chai banata hai, ek chai mein chini dalta hai, ek chai
that's different.
So there's everything involved, and there's an entire group that supports one person. In those days, this guy got injured like fielding a ball, and he never recovered from that. And they made him play a test match, and he broke his back. He broke his vertebrae because he used to bowl at 100 miles an hour, and he broke his vertebrae, and he never recovered. So he moved to the UK, and he like teaches over there now. There were so many others, man. There was like Abdul Razak when he first came in 97. And
no way,
18-year-old, he was 90 plus, man. Abdul Razak was pretty fast, man.
No.
And then after that, like there was Muhammad Sami was fast as hell. Then there was Shabir. He was pretty quick.
Shabir wasn't
Um,
that quick, bro.
there was a big line of fast bowlers that never. Fazle Akbar was one. He never got to play. There were some that I'm missing right now, but in those days, you couldn't break into the Pakistan team with Wasim, Waqar, Shoaib, and Abdul Razak as like bench
Oh, then
support.
you then you got the next generation of Umar Gul and all those who weren't that quick, but
Yeah.
strong the ball.
After that, I mean, I think it kind of fell apart. Kind of. Then
Right now,
then
there's
then
no.
then then you had magicians. Then you had a magician in Muhammad Asif, which I think nobody. I've never seen anything like that. The guy could like do anything.
Well, but that didn't end well.
It didn't end well, but that's what I'm saying. Like the entire system just crumbled. The
But
entire
right
system
now,
just crumbled.
no tearaways in Pakistan. Watching the two tests against South Africa,
No.
Shaheen Shafri is
Who
quickish, but
He's good,
not.
man. I mean, but which kid grows up wanting to say like, you know what, I want to be a tearaway? Like
But
nobody
with
wants to do that.
But you think that between Wasim, Waqar, and Shoaib, the next generation after Imran, there would be so many following the footsteps. And then, like you said, suddenly seems to be a lacune
Cyrus,
in the last.
that was 20 years ago, man. I mean, things have changed. Kids have grown up. Like they don't watch that stuff anymore. They can YouTube it if they want, but now they look at what they look at, and they want to be that. They don't want to be Wasim Akram or.
Damn you, kids! Damn you! Letting down a legacy like that. Man,
Yeah.
is there anything better than watching a Shoaib Akhtar at full tilt, or
man.
Brett Lee at full
Man,
tilt?
for me, I
going...
think for me, the greatest was watching, because I grew up in Dubai, so I watched all the Sharjah matches. So watching Waqar Yunus in a stadium, like in his peak, was
quick.
Man.
And
Like,
with that full length ball,
I was
he must be
scared
quicker
for the
than...
guys. Yeah, I was scared for the guys facing him because he was just phenomenal, man.
Nose and toes, boom, boom. Yeah.
And in those days, there's no cameras. You could do whatever you want to the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he had that ability to take out the tail. There'd be 5 for 115, and then all out to 136. It'd be just 5 for 6 or 5 for 10.
Man.
Amazing. Did you ever? Did you see him live from the stadium? Did you see him both?
Oh yeah, dude. I've the fastest I've seen, obviously, Shoaib in the stadium, but Waqar was just another level. In 91, 92, he was just on another page, man. He was just too quick. Wasim Akram was quick, but he had other skills as well that overshadowed his quickness. Like
he's the greatest. What are you saying?
I mean, he's the greatest. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT.
Wasim is there. You don't go above Wasim. He's not allowed. That's it.
Yeah, he's the GOAT.
And like you said, nobody talks about his pace, but there was space because of that shoulder action and the short run up. Nobody talked about him in the same breath in terms of pace, but there were moments when he would bowl as quick as he needed to. But really, with that ability to move the ball both ways, watching Jimmy Anderson take out India yesterday on his own, you can see quality bowlers are just, I think it's the best part of it. Quality fast
very
bowlers.
Difficult.
With pace
very
and
difficult
swing.
To find.
Oof. No, but just see that on a flat Chepauk wicket, the guy started reverse swinging, and the two balls that took out the middle order, he got Gill and Ajinkya Rahane, I think in consecutive balls almost very quickly, and the match was over. After that,
at the age of 40, he's almost 40.
40, waist is in, body is lean. Pace has never been his strongest point, but he can swing the ball both ways. One of the few people who can today, and he gets a reverse swing in our conditions. So hats off to them.
That's
amazing.
That's crazy, man. But that's the thing, man. Like, I mean, nobody values that anymore because when they see something like this guy's only going to bowl 4 overs in a T20 match.
Yeah.
What's the deal here, man? But when you see a good spell of fast bowling in a test match, there's nothing like it.
Wow. Man, the blood
Look
rushes.
At that kid. What is that kid, Siraj, what he did in Australia?
Ooh,
I mean, he
with the background of his father dying and all that. What a romantic
Oh my God.
story.
It was like a book-worthy story,
I mean, you could have written about this, guys, Richa Pulla's son, I mean, he's in this glamorous Australia with all these big, tough, big guys from another culture.
And he's just bowling with heart, complete heart.
You outbowled them in Brisbane. You outbowled the lion in its den, bro. Hats off.
What a fantastic story that was. It was good to watch too, because I think this is a dying sort of, maybe you and I can appreciate it, but the other guys, they're like on the commentary I was looking at, they're like, oh, he didn't do anything for RCB. Who gives a shit? He didn't do anything for RCB, man.
Red ball cricket. My God, Gaba.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the empty crowds, well, not empty, but they're in half house or whatever it is. Would have been great. But anyway, we have to take a quick break because this is the longest episode ever because you start talking cricket with me and I won't stop. We'll come back in exactly 3 seconds. Stay where you are. I'll bring in Silvery. Back here, Zarrar has a book. It's called Pureland, which as a publicity stunt, he got banned in Pakistan and India. Well, India doesn't publish the book. It's not banned. Pakistan has sort of banned it. And this is something we came up with, right, Zarrar? We'll get it banned so the sales go through the roof. People always say that. I love the cynics. वो तो ऐसा किया ना, वो तो हो गया, जानबूझ के किया, 100%. This is his plan, his strategy. And the poor writer sitting there sipping coffee, waiting for the publisher to ring the bell. Yeah. All right. Let's call in Silvery. Are you there? He'll make a magic entry.
Hello.
There.
What's happening? Good morning.
So,
All right.
did you watch Mohammad Zayed bowl at all, or Mohammad Asif? Are you
Of course.
familiar with?
It was so
He
great.
was like
yeah.
5 years old, man. What are you talking
It
about?
was, no, but I
Oh,
remember it
yeah.
very well. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Superb.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
All
EMA
right.
time.
Let's
Ask
get
the
to
good
the
author
EMAs.
what you want.
Yes. There's one cricket-related question, which is quite interesting. Dear Cyrus and guest, have you ever thought of buying your own IPL team? And if you ever did, who would be the 5 players who would definitely make it onto your team?
So
Yeah,
here's
this is
my
like Yeah, go ahead.
here's my thing. So guys, like, why can't we get like Babar Azam into an IPL team? Like, what do we have to do? Like, what does the guy have to do in this world to get into an IPL team?
It's horrible, honestly, as a cricket lover, if I can just get away from the jingoism for a second, I grew up
Yeah.
loving Pakistani cricketers. I mean, I didn't think of them as Pakistani or non-Pakistani.
Yeah.
This whole thing just came now. As a
They-
cricket lover, you love your stars. You grew up with Imran, Javed, Wasim, Waqar, etc. And I'm sure across the border it's the same thing. You grew up with
Yeah.
Viv Richards is my ultimate idol. He's a West Indian. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
I mean, they come and it's almost like your book is called Pureland. They impurify my world, with this crap. Because you take away the one thing that was
if you
pure,
think
which is
about it,
great
like
sport.
like how beautiful, if you're a businessman, right, and you have an IPL team, why would you not want to enter the second largest market in the world for your team? It makes
Exactly.
zero sense. And secondly, like if Mohamed Salah can play for Liverpool and
And what has he done for Liverpool? He's
Yeah, and
bridged
what has he
everything.
done
He's
for
brought
Liverpool?
down racism. He's beyond the football.
Yeah, beyond Liverpool. He's beyond Liverpool. So what does it take? Like, what does it take? What do you think? This is my
In my
question to
mind,
you.
the best
What does it
diplomacy
take?
between. I'll see. I have to get to government. It's not that easy. It'll take me 3 months at least.
Make a few phone calls, man. You're a connected guy. Make a
I'm
few.
on it. Huh? Let me talk. Rajasthan Royals, please. Yeah, front desk. Yeah, it's the loss is ours. The loss is completely ours as cricket lovers. I'm not saying as Indians or Pakistanis or whoever the hell you are, but as cricket
Or
lovers,
just
not to have.
businessmen. Or just businessmen. If you want to
You can
make,
look at it from
like,
that
imagine
from a commercial.
200 million people that would watch that game if Babar Azam is playing for, let's say, Mumbai Indians.
What about Yasser Shah? We have no leg break bowlers left in India. Very few, 1 or 2 left-arm Chinamen. I would like to see Yasser Shah in. I want more because everybody wants a leggy in their IPL team. And
Oh, hell. I think Cyrus's net got stuck again. Okay. Zarrar, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep. Okay. I'll just go ahead with the next question. But you didn't finish it. Cyrus,
Oh,
are you
he's back.
Oh, yeah.
he's back.
Please.
He's back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the 5 players, any specific 5 players that you want to keep, or you want to name in your team?
Oh, well, that's tough. But if he's fit, Andre Russell would be my first for sure. It's a tough one. I'd probably go with Sanju Samson. I think he's very good at T20. I would want one leg break bowler. So I think I'd have to go with Rashid Khan. I think there's no substitute for him in T20. And then I want one pace, out and out pace. So again, a little tough, but maybe Mitchell Stark if he can get his act together. Yeah, left arm quick. And Rishabh Pant, because he's bats on another level in the last month. But where is Zarrar?
He's here. He's right here.
I'm right here.
Oh, he's good. All right. Zarrar, who's your 5? 5 that you would
Yeah,
take?
I like I said, I think Babar Azam should be an opener in every T20 match. And I would go with Rohit Sharma because I think there's nothing like a
I forgot about
Rohit and Babar combination. In the bowling department, I'm going to choose 2 bowlers and a wicketkeeper, just to be fair.
Yeah.
We have to have a left arm quick. So I would also go with Mitchell Stark if he can get his act together. But I would also choose
Mr. Stark,
Siraj
get your
because
damn act
yeah,
together, man.
yeah, man, what the hell? Siraj, I think is man.
In white
He's
ball,
just in white ball. Siraj is going
not
to be
Bumrah.
in any kind of cricket. I think Siraj is going to be the next big thing. He's really good. Wicketkeeper batsman, I would go with Quinton de Kock.
Forgot about him. Fair enough.
Yeah.
They put us on the
Yeah.
spot. Yeah, it's a little tough. Give me 15 minutes to go through names again. Yeah, Alzheimer's and all that. Okay,
All right, next
Zarrar,
one.
can we have one more? Yeah.
Yeah. This one comes in from, so okay, the last one was from Falgun Joshi. I forgot to read that. This one comes in from Jishnu Rastogi. He says, "Hi, Cyrus and guest. Guys, recently Pakistani army chief called for a peaceful resolution for the Kashmir issue and peace in general. How likely do you think it is that Pakistan and India ever come to be fully at peace, or are they just bound into this never-ending rivalry, enmity between the two?"
See, I have a theory. I don't know if Zarrar will agree with it. I think that people who come to a table with the idea of actually looking at a solution, they'll bring peace to whatever, whether it's Arab Israel or, whether it's Liverpool versus Man U. If the idea is in their head to bring peace. But I think if you just go there for posturing and pretending and to show the
Yeah.
world that, it's not going to help. So you need to have the right people. Like, I think I'm a pacifist and I'm a man of peace. I think Zarrar is too. So if he headed a group from Pakistan, I headed a group from India, I think we come to a solution. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, like
You don't have to give and take.
yeah.
Nobody's going to be fully happy. It's an unis beast world. But at the end of the day, to stop killing, to allow people to get a life and go on, because why should one whole peoples suffer? It's just ridiculous for years and years.
Like
So that's my take.
I always think that wars are fought between governments and not between the populations. Like the people want peace. It's the governments with their own agendas that come forward, and the politicians and all, because of which I think this never happens.
Yeah,
That's generic.
my only take is what is the percentage of GDP that the army takes in India and Pakistan? Just answer that question. Secondly, if you are in the business of war, peace is your enemy, right? And if you leave these two entities out of the equation, you will reach peace within an hour. And we came very, very close to it in many times. And I think the idea is to keep continuing. This whole thing of banishing people, not talking to this, not talking to that, that was never the case back in the day. If you ever look at in the history books in World War II, the top junta of the Nazi Party was always in communication with Churchill and his cabinet. They were always in communication with even in World War II, the worst of times, they were always communicating and they were always open to relationships. And the Olympics happened, So these relationships needs to continue. The relationships of the entertainment industry, the cricket and this and that kind of stuff has to continue. Once you stop that, then there's no hope.
It's similar to your IPL point. Yeah,
exactly. Why not?
It's all about commerce. So economic theory of everything. Fair enough. I accept it. I'm okay with that. But before we say bye, tell me one Indian dish that you like, and don't say Priyanka Chopra because that's not fair.
I'm a big fan of South Indian food, and when I was in Bombay, like I made it a big deal to find the best thalis and the best dosas. That's my go-to. I'd say. Is that and then of course Priyanka. I don't think Priyanka Chopra is that hot, by the way. So.
Oh my! Now you're going to start a war. You're going to start a war for nothing. Don't start a war, yeah. Come on.
Yeah. That's how wars start. That's how wars start.
So. because of subcontinental girls with American accents. Half American accents. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's one more interesting question. Can you just quickly get to that?
Quick, bro.
Quick. This one comes in from Neil. He says, Zarrar, can you give me honest advice on how one can start writing? Is formal training required? For what it's worth, I read a lot, fiction, non-fiction, history, etc. I'm really into reading.
Wow, what a question.
Wow, wonderful question. It caught me off guard. But okay, so I guess I was also informally trained. I'd never got training. I never went to school for it. And I was told by people not to go to school for it or get workshops and stuff like that. Because the idea of writing is a very emotional thing. And you have to you have to craft things. It's like kind of like playing the guitar, right? When you first pick up a guitar, you start playing covers. You try and write like other writers, and you try and write like Salman Rushdie or whoever. Then you become used to it. Then you develop your own voice. It's, when you're playing guitar, you play a couple of chords and you're like, oh wait, you know what's that? I want to play this. And then you develop your own thing. So I think for me, that's how it worked. Like I taught myself how the idea of crafting a paragraph, crafting a chapter, and you just have to believe in yourself and don't listen to people, man. Just write for yourself. Write the story you want to read.
I'm confused. So is this how to learn the guitar? How to write?
Well, they're both the same thing, right? They're both acts of pleasure.
Now
And
this
the acts
Neil
of
guy is going to
emotion.
go back, pick up a guitar, start strumming away, and next thing he's going to be a big rock and roll star, but never became a writer. All right.
Yep.
Listen, Zarrar, thanks so much for being on the show. Really, it's been an honor and a pleasure.
No.
And I hope your work is read all over the world, in every corner of the world. When
did you
I
get the
become,
book? Did you get the book
I haven't.
already?
I just have this
No,
one
he's
remote
making
control.
excuses.
I haven't got the book. They haven't delivered it to me. I have a lot of security though, so hopefully it'll come through.
Don't you
But
guys have like Amazon drones over there?
No, we don't.
yeah,
What are you
right.
thinking? No.
Look, what I can get you is a dosa. Okay, that I can get you, nothing else. Amazon drones my foot. All right, peace has been declared between India and Pakistan. These two philosophers have sorted out everything. 2.5. Silver, you come in as well. Zarrar,
Sure.
cheers. Gotta go. See you soon.
All right, man. Thank you for
Bye.
having me.
Take care.